Assalamu alaikum. We've talked about the principles of the Medina Constitution and how it is applicable to modern forms of government. We talked about the Quranic principles of justice and how the Islamic State is really a vehicle towards achieving justice and preventing injustice. We talked about the goals of Sharia and how they fit in within the model of this important Islamic State. And we talk about modern governments in modern states today and how they have an underpinning of a moral law, a moral fabric, and are set out to really let religious experiences flourish. I want to talk a little bit before we get into the other parts of government. In the concluding session we have on this important topic, on other quotes of founding fathers that we can draw parallels between what they say and what's happening to Muslims today. During the struggle for independence, when Americans were killed by British soldiers, at that time General Washington was asked what he thought. He said, "I grieve for the death of my countrymen, but rejoice that the British are so determined to keep God on our side." This can be exactly drawn in parallel with what Muslims are suffering today. When the Indian Army, for example, kills Kashmiri, we say, "I grieve for the death of our Kashmiri brothers and sisters, but rejoice that the Indian Army are so determined to keep God on our side." When Russians murder and instigate genocide on the Chechens, we can say the same thing. For the Bosnians, the same thing. For the Palestinians, the same thing. Unfortunately, what happens in reaction is sometimes we do things that are against Islam and push God to the other side. It's not to say that we are on the right side or on the wrong side, but remember, when we become the victims of atrocities, we witness the truth and we have an experience towards becoming closer to the truth because we understand its ramifications. When Patrick Henry says, "Give me liberty or give me death," isn't that the same thing that Muslims throughout the world, in Palestine, in Kashmir, in Chechnya, in Bosnia, are saying exactly the same thing? There is much in parallel between the rhetoric of our founding fathers and what we are facing today. Unfortunately, we do not have Muslim constitutional lawyers because I believe, in my opinion, the best way to formulate arguments with respect to current U.S. policy or current decisions is by becoming experts in the Constitution and understanding that strong religious underpinning of the Constitution, how it has developed a secular process, a process by which all people can have an equal opportunity for influencing or participating in the decision-making process. It is ideal, but it is still an opportunity. We don't have, unfortunately, the advantages because we don't have Muslim constitutional lawyers that can explain this to the people and explain this to the rest of society. Modern government, as explained by many civics books, have four important elements. One, the process of authority. Two, the duty of responsibility. Three, the notion of justice. And four, the right of privacy. And if you look at these four elements of what's called modern democracy today, this is exactly what's found in the Medina Constitution. This is what's found in many modern governments today. In terms of authority, the Constitution states very clearly that there is an authority, and there is an allegiance to that authority. The Quran, again, outlines the process: obey God and His Prophet and those with whom you have entrusted authority. This authority gets its consent from the governed and moral law. Nothing there incompatible with Islam, as you can see clearly. Even the Declaration of Independence had talked about that there was a time to separate from Britain because of these important laws. As it starts out, it says, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. So in other words, when there is no consent and there is no abidance to the law of God, then the people have the right to disband whatever political connections they have with the occupying force. Obviously, this draws a parallel again with many of the Muslim struggles that we see today throughout the world. When this is fulfilled, then there is a legitimate authority. And that legitimate authority is an important aspect of a legitimate modern government. Responsibility, talking about the duties of the citizen. The duties towards the law, the duties towards the society, and that there are consequences and accountability when these responsibilities are not fulfilled. Justice, as again, the highest ethical value in Islam. It is the balance so that there is no one group of people that is going to benefit, no aristocracy, no tribe, no one particular party is going to have the monopoly against others. Obviously, these are ideals because in today's political system, this whole notion of justice is not being fulfilled because special interest groups like the pro-Israel lobby, like a number of other special interest groups, monopolize power in our United States Congress today, and are pressures against the White House itself that we can talk about at another time. Then the notion of privacy, I think, is very interesting because this basically deals with the rights of the citizens. That if you don't have rights towards for the citizenship, then again you cannot have a functional modern government. This is found in the Quran when we read the verse La ikraha fid din, there is no compulsion in matters of religion, and it's also found in many books of fiqh that talk about the right of individuals to have basically the right to do things within their own confines, that government does not have the right to invade their homes, basically for the purpose in an Islamic state that a police state is not formed. This is therefore the parameters that we can say become areas where we can discuss the commonalities, and obviously there are going to be differences that are important to talk about that we can deal with later. But the point is, we can't say things are completely secular in an American society, and we cannot say that things are completely religious in an Islamic state. They can be based on religion. But when we talk about religious, in other words, is it specific to one religious group? And again, because the Quran tells us, and the way the Medina Constitution was written, that our message, our religion is meant for humanity, therefore it is not for the purpose of serving one particular group. And in the Constitution and in the statements of the Founding Fathers, obviously, we see that they had chosen a secular process because they believed that is going to be the best way to enhance religious experiences. And they also felt that religion is very important for the system of government to succeed. Secular is usually defined as being anti-religion. The true definition of secular, it is non-religious. In other words, it is indifferent to whichever religious group you're talking about. And when we talk about a secular process, then many of the things that we're talking about, whether it is building consensus, whether it's an analogy and deduction, whether in terms of juristic or jurisprudence in the Muslim world today, many of those processes can be defined as secular processes. But again, the goal is to achieve justice through a religion-based vehicle that we call an Islamic state, or a model Islamic state that espouses the highest ethical values for humanity. I just want to end again by the notion that democracy means self-government. And if we believe that the Islamic form of government has the will of the people to be important here, abiding by the principles laid down by the Quran, then this is a form of democracy. And in my opinion, it is the will of God to have democratic forms of government. It is definitely not the will of God to have dictatorships as our form of government. And we should understand these important elements in looking at our historic documents and looking at what is happening today to see that these Islamic experiences that we have here in America and the Muslims who are struggling to have the same Islamic experiences throughout the world are given every potential, every advantage in doing so. And we can help in facilitating that freedom, that justice, that sense of decency that all people, and especially people within the Muslim faith, try to espouse. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.